Let's do another Charles' Law example. A gas in a cylinder with a movable piston has an initial volume of 88.2 milliliters and is heated from 36 to 155 degrees Celsius. What is the final volume of the gas in milliliters? So what we want to do here is we want to identify what all these different things are, and we're going to use a table. So I'm going to draw a table. And I'm going to have row 1 and row 2. And I'm going to read through the question, and when I come to the first number, I get 88.2 milliliters. So I'm going to write that down with its unit, 88.2 milliliters. And that is a volume. So I'm going to title this column volume. So it has an initial volume of this, and it's heated from 36 to 155. So it's 88.2 milliliters at 36 degrees Celsius, and then we're going to heat it up, and we need to know what the volume is at the final temperature. So it starts out at 36 degrees Celsius, ends up at 155. Having trouble writing today. What do we need to do to the temperatures? We need to put them into kelvins. So we might as well just do it right now before we forget. So we just add 273. So 36 plus 273 is 309. So this is equivalent to 309 Kelvin. And 155 plus 273 is 428 Kelvin. And that's my temperature column. The gas laws do not work with degrees Celsius. I'm looking for the final volume, and that's going to be this V2. So then I use my equation for Charles' law, and that's going to be V1 over T1 equals V2 over T2. I'm solving for V2. I would still recommend that you cross multiply and get rid of the fractions. So I'm going to rearrange this. V1 T2 equals T1 V2. So I took the top of one side times the bottom of the other side, and the bottom of the first side times the top of the other side. That's what cross multiplying means. Now it's easier to rearrange this. I want V2. I'm going to divide both sides by T1 because I want the T1s to cancel out. And I divide by T1 on the other side. So I've made a very nice messy equation. I'm going to rewrite it. V2 is equal to V1 T2 over T1. So I know many of you are concerned about the exam coming up next week. One thing I've noticed when I go through the exams is a lot of you don't write anything down. And I don't know how you can do that unless you're just guessing. That's not a good strategy for passing a class. I let you write on the exam and I give you scratch paper. If I was taking that exam, I would be writing stuff down. I don't do stuff like this in my head. I write it down. Now, I might not write all of this down, but I would write the equation down, and I would write the equation with the numbers and units filled in. Because then you can come back after you go through all the problems once and look at it and see if you put the numbers in the right place. If you just did it in your head on your calculator, it's really hard to check your work. So just trying to encourage you to show your work. So now I'm going to take numbers from my table and put them in here. So V1 is 88.2 milliliters. and temperature 2 is 428 Kelvin. And that's going to be divided by temperature 1, which is 309 Kelvin. And I look at the units, and the kelvins cancel out, so that's good. 88.2 times 428 divided by 309. And my calculator is going to give me a big old mess. Bless you, 122.1669903. Then I'm going to look at the numbers I've been using here, and they all have 3 significant figures, so I'm going to round this to 3 significant figures, and I'm going to say the new volume is 122 milliliters. Question? That's a good question. This temperature only had 2 significant figures. But when we convert to Kelvin, we're adding. And so it's still to the nearest 1, and so now it has 3 significant figures. Adding and subtracting can change the number of significant figures you have. Any other questions? And then let's ask ourselves, well, did that change in the right direction? If I take a gas from a low temperature to a high temperature, do I expect it to get bigger or smaller? If I heat up a balloon, is it going to get larger or smaller? Larger. It's going to get larger, and it did, so that's good. Any other questions?